Hey, look at you, still breathing, still alive. Somehow. Didn't think you'd make it this far, did you? No applause, no trophy, no spotlight. Just you, dragging your soul through miles of broken glass, while everyone else pretended not to see the blood. You ate shit, not once, not twice, but daily. On the regular, pain for breakfast, disappointment for lunch, loneliness for dinner, and still, you kept showing up. Let me guess. You smiled through it, didn't you? Posted the cute little "I'm fine" story, told your friends it is what it is, kept the volume down so no one could hear you breaking behind the scenes. That fake-ass "I'm good" act. You deserve Oscars for that one. Let's be real. Life didn't just hurt you. It tried to humiliate you. Life didn't tap you on the shoulder. It socked you in the face in front of everyone, took your dreams, spit on them, then asked you, "Still want to try?" You lost people you swore would never leave. You trusted hands that only reached for you to take more. You were loyal to people who couldn't even spell the word back. You broke down in bathrooms, in parking lots, in the middle of work shifts, with a fake smile glued on your face. You powered through anxiety attacks like a damn machine. You went numb just to get through SHT you never signed up for. People saw you drowning and offered you advice instead of a fucking life vest. Stay positive. Be grateful. God gives his hardest battles. Shut the fuck up. You weren't fighting some poetic struggle. You were just trying not to fall apart in public. You kept going. But at what cost? You know what's messed up. You started normalizing the pain, like, yeah, this is just how it is, right? Nah, that wasn't just life. That was a damn ambush disguised as normalcy, but you kept going. Because what other choice did you have? No trust fund, no backup plan, no safety net, no one coming to save you, no hotline that fixes broken hearts or broken bank accounts or broken spirits. So you gritted your teeth, put your head down, and said, "Fuck it." And you kept moving, one rejection at a time, one panic attack at a time, one bounced payment, one heartbreak, one identity crisis at a fucking time. You became a master of survival, not because you wanted to, but because there was no alternative. The world wanted you small. You got quiet. Instead, they didn't want you strong. They wanted you predictable. They wanted you clocking in, clocking out, paying bills, staying quiet, swallowing pain, playing polite. But you went quiet for a different reason. Not weakness, not defeat. Calculation. You started watching, listening, noticing how people switch up when you stop being convenient, noticing how they disappear when you stop bleeding for them. You started to realize you're not like them. You were never supposed to be. You were built from some other shit, some raw, volatile, unfiltered energy the world doesn't know what to do with. They can't measure you, so they dismiss you. They told you to calm down, be realistic, be grateful. Grateful for what, exactly? For barely surviving? You get punished for being too ambitious, too emotional, too direct, too intense. But let's call it what it is. They're scared of you. Scared of what you represent. Scared of your persistence. Scared of the fact that you didn't break. That after everything, all the hell you swallowed, all the tears you dried alone, all the times you doubted if you were even worth saving, you're still here. That's what rattles them. You should have folded. You should have snapped. You should have quit. But you didn't. You adapted. You evolved. You learned to sit with rage without letting it ruin you. You learned to carry grief like a second skin. You learned how to be your own damn rescue team. Now people see the mask, but not the monster Underneath, you walk into rooms now and people feel something. They don't know what it is, but it makes them nervous. It's not ego. It's not attitude. It's survival residue. You stopped begging for understanding. You stopped hoping they'd get it. You stopped looking for approval in rooms you should have burned down years ago. Now you just look at them like, you have no idea what I had to endure just to sit here looking this calm. 'Cause they don't know. They never will. They don't know about the breakdowns at 1 a.m., the overdrafted accounts, the panic attacks in silence, the I can't do this anymores that somehow turned into, but I'm still here. They don't see that version of you, but you do. And I do. You weren't built to fit in. You were built to detonate. Let's be honest. You're not meant for comfort zones. You've outgrown every damn thing they ever tried to fit you into. Labels, roles, friendships, belief systems, gone. You were never here to blend in. You were here to expose, disrupt, awaken. Your pain didn't soften you. It sharpened you. Your failure didn't end you. It refined you. You're no longer in recovery mode. You're in reconstruction. The old you, gone. The one who begged for love, chased people, apologized for existing, explained their pain to people who couldn't comprehend. That one's dead. You buried them without a funeral. And the world doesn't even know who they're fucking with now. You walk into places like you don't need anything, and that's what fucks with them most. You're not chasing clout, not begging to be seen, not selling some inflated version of yourself like everybody else fighting for digital air. You're just there, silent, watching, built different, and that makes people itch. Because when you're not performing, they can't place you. And when they can't place you, they can't control you. They don't know whether to admire you, copy you, or try to bring you down quietly. Some do all three at once, smiling in your face while silently praying for your burnout. They see the peace in your stillness and mistake it for weakness because they've never met someone whose silence speaks louder than their bragging. And they don't get it. You're not cold because you're bitter. You're cold because warmth cost you everything before. You learned the hard way that being soft in a world full of users and actors is a liability, not a virtue. You're not angry, you're not broken, you're not lost. You're just done playing roles in someone else's drama. Nobody talks about what it costs to keep showing up when everything around you keeps collapsing. How much energy it takes to pretend you're not crumbling when your heart feels like concrete, with cracks you can't seal. And still, you kept it moving. While everyone else got a break, you were carrying bricks. While they were partying, you were patching wounds. While they were sleeping, you were strategizing in the dark, trying to make sense of a life that never made space for you. You wanted to quit so many times. You thought about ghosting the whole world, packing your shit, disappearing, deleting every trace of yourself, and leaving behind the version of you that everyone thinks they know. But you didn't. You stayed. You showed up to the pain. You looked at the chaos and whispered, "Fine. Let's dance." Some people heal in the sun. You healed in a storm. While the winds screamed and the ground shook and nothing made sense, you stitched your soul together with fragments. You built yourself out of dead ends and red flags. You used every loss as raw material. And now you walk around like a weapon disguised as a whisper. Not because you're trying to be scary, but because nothing scares you anymore. You've already been abandoned by people you loved. You've already been judged for wounds they gave you. You've already been doubted in rooms you helped build. You've already been the hero and the villain in stories you never even wrote. That kind of pain doesn't break you. It rewires you. You stopped looking for fairness and started looking for leverage. You stopped begging for peace and started building walls. You stopped waiting for the storm to pass and just learned how to move through the rain. It's funny how people think they know you based on what you let them see. Like they got you figured out from a few conversations, a few posts, a few glimpses through the filter. They don't know the 1 a.m. version of you, curled up in the dark, overthinking everything, heart racing, hands shaking, praying for something to hold on to. They don't know about the nights where you stared at the ceiling and questioned if your life was even real anymore, if any of it was worth it, if maybe, just maybe, disappearing would finally give you peace. But you didn't disappear. You stood up, alone, again, not because someone gave you a reason, but because your story didn't end yet. And something deep inside, you refused to die unfinished. People say, "You've changed," like that's a bad thing. Of course you've changed. You were forced to evolve in conditions that would have crushed anyone else. You had to be your own support system, your own therapist, your own motivator, your own backup plan, your own oxygen mask, while everyone else suffocated you with expectations and silence. You learned how to self-resurrect, how to hold space for your own destruction and rebuild without applause, how to smile while bleeding internally, because the world doesn't pause just because you're in pieces. They don't see the weight you carry. They don't see the battles you fight just to make it through a normal day. They just see you there, quiet, composed, maybe a little distant, and they judge the armor without knowing the war it took to build it. You don't explain yourself anymore because no one really listens. They just wait to respond. They wait for you to break so they can either comfort you or compete with you. But you've become too smart for that. You learn the difference between those who check in and those who check boxes, between love and attachment, between loyalty and convenience, between "I'm here for you" and "I'm here until you stop being useful." You learn that most people can't love you unless you're making them comfortable. And the moment you speak your truth or stand your ground, you become difficult. Let them call you difficult. They called the fire department difficult too, but only after the whole city burned. You stopped trying to be understood the day you realized nobody ever saw you clearly to begin with. All they ever saw was the version of you that served their comfort. The nice one, the helpful one, the quiet one, the sure no problem one, the "it's okay, I'll figure it out" one. They loved you when you were digestible, when your rage was tucked behind your smile, when your needs were buried beneath your loyalty, when your boundaries were still suggestions, not consequences, but you stopped shrinking, stopped performing, stopped bleeding to keep their hands clean. And suddenly you were too much, too cold, too intense, too guarded. But they weren't there when you had to hold yourself together in the dark. They weren't there when you broke in silence because no one ever checked in. They weren't there when you cried into your own hands, whispering, "Get through this," like a damn chant, night after night. You learned to walk through hell without flinching. You learned to stop asking for understanding from people who are terrified of their own reflection. You learned that most people only want your light when it makes their shadows more comfortable. The world isn't built for people like you. People who feel too deeply, who see too much, who refuse to fake it. People who can't sit in rooms full of small talk without their soul screaming. People who question everything, especially authority, tradition, comfort, and convenience. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to disrupt, to reveal, to expose, to make people uncomfortable in the best possible way. You were built to pull back the curtain, to speak the words everyone's afraid to say out loud. You were built to carry the weight others won't acknowledge, not because you wanted it, but because you could. And when you started using that voice, when you stopped apologizing for your truth, they backed away, like your honesty was a disease they might catch, like your pain made them guilty just for standing near it. But you don't chase that anymore. You let people leave. You let the silence do its job. You stopped watering dead connections just to avoid being the villain. You learned to sit in your own damn presence and not flinch. You've lost count of how many times you wanted to snap, how many moments you felt the switch flip, like your mind whispered, "This is it, I'm done." But somehow, you kept going, not because it got better, but because you got used to moving through pain like it was air. You got used to stitching yourself back together with shaky hands and no map. You turned your trauma into texture, your rage into rhythm, your heartbreak into fuel. And even when the world gave you nothing, you gave birth to something. You created meaning where there was none. You created love out of survival. You created a version of yourself that isn't pretty, isn't polished, but is undeniable. They don't understand the price you paid for your silence, the screams you swallowed, the things you carried that weren't yours but were handed to you anyway, because you were strong enough. Being strong wasn't a choice. It was your only option. You don't smile for approval anymore. You don't soften your voice so people feel safe around your power. You don't explain your boundaries like they're suggestions. You used to need people. You used to feel guilty for growing. But now you've buried versions of yourself that would have died just to keep the peace. You stopped mistaking love for tolerance. You stopped mistaking being needed for being valued. You stopped mistaking noise for connection. Now your silence holds more weight than their entire character. Because while they were talking about you were rebuilding yourself. While they were watching, you were working. While they were doubting, you were preparing. And when the mask finally dropped, they didn't recognize you anymore. Good. They weren't supposed to. You started noticing how quiet everything became. When you stopped explaining yourself. When you stopped performing for love. When you finally realized that half the people around you were only clapping because it kept you distracted. Silence used to scare you. Now it feels like peace. That kind of silence? That's not emptiness. That's control. It's you reclaiming your bandwidth. It's you unplugging from everyone's noise, everyone's agenda, everyone's narrative about who you're supposed to be. You used to think healing meant fixing everything that broke you. Turns out it means remembering who the hell you were before the world started editing you. Before you were told to smile more, tone it down, take the safe path, be nice, be small, be manageable. You stopped chasing normal. You realized normal was just trauma that learned how to dress up for Instagram. And while they were busy pretending to have it together, you were busy getting real. You started seeing things differently. You noticed how everyone's addicted, not just to substances, but to distraction, scrolling, flexing, escaping. You started catching the lies in conversations, the desperation behind people's confidence, the emptiness in their eyes when they talk about success. You started realizing how much of this entire world is built on pretending. And that's when it hit you. You weren't broken, you were awake. And the more awake you got, the lonelier it became. Because nobody wants to talk about what's real. They just want to be comforted inside their cage. They call it stability. But it's just fear wearing a name tag. The download starts slow. At first, it's just that uneasy feeling that nothing feels the same anymore. You look at your old life and it feels fake, like a movie you outgrew halfway through. The job, the people, the habits, all of it feels like a glitch in a program you can't unsee anymore. You start remembering moments that didn't make sense back then, but make perfect sense now. The way they guilt-tripped you when you stopped overextending, the way they minimized your pain when you started setting standards, the way they disappeared when you stopped being their emotional dumping ground. It's all data now, patterns, codes, behavior loops. You start catching yourself in real time. Mid-conversation, mid-scroll, mid-self-sabotage. And something inside whispers, "Wait, I've seen this before." And that's when you realize the world has been conditioning you like software, rewarding compliance, punishing individuality, training you to chase approval like a paycheck, feeding you dopamine and deadlines until you forget you ever had a soul. You start tracing back where it all began, when you first stopped trusting your own gut, when you started prioritizing comfort over authenticity, when you traded peace for acceptance. You start realizing how many people wear confidence like cologne, spray it on heavy before they walk out, hoping nobody smells the fear underneath. You start seeing the system for what it really is, a machine that feeds on your exhaustion and calls it ambition. You've been running on survival mode for years, and you didn't even know the difference between surviving and living anymore. Moments where everything clicks for a split second, and then you have to sit with the nausea of knowing how much of your life was programmed, how much of your pain was recycled, how many of your dreams were never even yours. Just hand-me-down illusions from a generation that settled for less and called it wisdom. You feel it in your body before your brain catches up. That subtle rejection of fake energy, that physical resistance to shallow conversations, that gut pull when something isn't aligned anymore. You start craving solitude the way you used to crave validation. You stop looking for applause and start looking for alignment. You stop asking what people think and start asking what feels right. You stop faking small talk with people who never learned how to sit with silence. And that's when everything starts rewiring. You start to remember what real feels like. Not perfect, not painless, just real. Your emotions stop apologizing for existing. Your standards stop shrinking to fit broken dynamics. Your presence starts carrying weight. Not because you say more, but because you finally mean everything you say. You stop negotiating your worth with people who never paid the price to understand it. They call it isolation. You call it freedom. Because once you start seeing through the illusion, you can't go back to pretending. You can't laugh at fake jokes. You can't clap for hollow victories. You can't play nice when your soul's screaming for something real. You realize peace isn't found in comfort. It's found in clarity. And clarity, that shit burns at first. It kills your illusions, kills your attachments, kills your need to be liked. But once the smoke clears, all that's left is truth. And it's heavier than you imagined, but it's yours, all yours. Hello, monsters in disguise. Oh, I see that look in your eyes, that feral grin behind the stitched lips. You did something, didn't you? No, scratch that. You did something impossible. And now, they're pacing in circles, sweating in silence, clenching their sharp teeth behind those polished smiles. because whatever the hell you just pulled off, they can't comprehend it. You bent the laws of physics they worship. You cracked the 32 spines of their system. You mocked their rules. And then you did the unthinkable. Let me tell you what just happened, in case your mind is still adjusting. You just shattered the simulation. You weren't supposed to survive. You weren't supposed to thrive. You were meant to beg, to break, to bleed in the gutter while they clinked glasses and toasted your downfall. And instead, you walked in with nothing but a smirk and burned their playbook alive. Now they're screaming without sound, because they can't admit it out loud. You just rewrote the whole fucking game. They trained for this moment, to trap you, to gaslight you into dust, to bury you beneath guilt, fear, debt, shame. But you didn't flinch, you didn't fold, you didn't die quietly like they planned. You detonated. And the explosion, oh sweetheart, it's still echoing. You see, every society has a script, and you were cast as the clown, the side character, the error, the one they'd smile at condescendingly, until you did the one thing that destroys every illusion. You acted without permission. You made power moves in a world where you were supposed to grovel. You built something real in a world of masks. You became unignorable, and now their reality is cracking. They're losing their fucking minds trying to understand. How? How the fuck did you do this? But they won't find the answer, because the answer doesn't exist in their rules. It exists in your pain, in your scars, in your madness, in the nights you screamed into pillows so loud your soul cracked. And still, you showed up the next day like a monster reborn. People think sanity is strength, but you know better. You know the truth. Madness is liberation. You let go of needing their love. You let go of needing their approval. You stopped trying to make sense of a world that profits off your confusion. And that, my dear, was the kill shot. They wanted control, but they gave you a motive. They wanted silence, but they gave you a voice forged in hell. They wanted you harmless. And now you're walking karma in a tailored suit. They're whispering about you now, panic typing in group chats, canceling meetings to strategize your disappearance. Because if you can do this, then what the hell does that say about their excuses, their limitations, their entire identity? You became proof that the cage was never locked, that the monster in the basement learned to speak, that the outcast became the apex predator. They can't process it, they can't reverse it, and they can't stop you. So what did you do? You stopped apologizing, you stopped asking, you stopped dying slowly just to make others comfortable. You walked into the fire, set the rules on fire, and made hell kneel at your feet. And now, you're untouchable. Not because you're perfect, not because you're lucky, but because you were willing to be misunderstood forever in order to be free. So to everyone watching this, let them talk, let them scream, let them cry behind their closed doors and fake smiles. Because while they're losing their sanity, you're just getting started. Listen carefully. Do you feel that silence? That trembling, suffocating silence in the air? That's not peace. That's fear. They fear you now. Not because you're loud, not because you're violent, but because you've become unpredictable. And unpredictability, oh, that's the kind of chaos that turns kings into trembling children. You broke their rhythm. You tore through their carefully constructed narrative like a storm that doesn't give a damn who built the castle. And when you stood there smiling while everything around you burned, that's when they realized you don't just play the game anymore. You are the game. They can't compete with someone who's willing to laugh at the idea of losing. They can't control someone who looks at every failure and says, "Is that all you've got?" You see, that's the part they'll never understand. They think success is born from safety, from comfort, from being liked. But you know success is born from the ashes, from pain, from taking every insult, every betrayal, every locked door, and breaking it down with bloody fists until your knuckles scream victory. Let me tell you why they're losing their sanity over you. Because you did the one thing they never saw coming. You refused to die in silence. You turned your wounds into weapons. You turned your humiliation into ammunition. And now, every scar on your body tells a story they can't erase. You're not a person anymore. You're a warning, a living, breathing reminder that the rules are fake. The systems are fake. The whole game is rigged. But you still walked away with the crown, and that drives them insane. They're asking each other, how did they do it? How? But they'll never find the answer, because the answer isn't in their books. It's not in their degrees, their fake titles, their empty philosophies. The answer is this: you were willing to go places they were too scared to even look at. You walked into the darkness and didn't just survive. You built a home there. You painted the walls with your rage. And now, when they step into that same darkness, you're already sitting there, waiting, smiling. You know why I respect you? Because you're not here to be liked. You're not here to be understood. You're here to break patterns so brutally that the whole world has to stop and watch. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to turn this chaos into something even greater? Because this is just the opening act. If they think they're losing their sanity now, wait until they see what's coming next. Now we get to the real fun part. You want the darkness? You want the raw, unfiltered venom that makes the world choke? Then listen closely, because this part isn't for the faint-hearted. Do you know why they're tearing their hair out right now? Because they just realized you're not following their script anymore. And people like them, oh, they need that script. It's their holy book, their security blanket. Without it, they're just confused little sheep, bumping into walls, praying someone tells them who to hate next. But you ripped their script to shreds and set it on fire while laughing. And that sound, the sound of your laugh, it's haunting them in their sleep. Because deep down, they know something that terrifies them. You don't play by the same rules anymore. You see, society loves predictable little puppets. Wake up, work, consume, complain, sleep, repeat. A mechanical cycle of submission. But you broke out of that loop like a virus. You didn't just say no. You said, watch me burn everything you love to ashes and build a kingdom from the rubble. And now, every move you make is a threat. Every breath you take is a middle finger to their fragile order. They're watching you like a bomb they forgot to defuse, because they don't know when you'll go off next, but they know you will. Let me tell you what they're too afraid to admit. They envy you. Oh yes. Behind all that hatred, all that panic, all that venom, there's envy. Because you had the audacity to become free in a world built on cages. They wonder, how did you do it? What secret deal did you make? What trick did you pull? And you just smile. Because there is no trick. There is no shortcut. There is just pain, and the decision to own it instead of run from it. You learned how to bleed with a grin, and that's something they'll never understand. Right now, somewhere, they're meeting in hushed rooms, scribbling plans on whiteboards, whispering about how to deal with you. But it's useless. You can't cage someone who's already burned their own chains. You can't break someone who's already been broken and liked it. Let me ask you something. Do you know what happens next when they can't control someone like you? They start to unravel. They fight each other. They self-destruct, trying to stop the unstoppable. And that's where the real fun begins. Oh, now we go nuclear. No masks, no polite whispers, just raw chaos dripping from every word. You want the truth? Here it is, ugly, brutal, and crawling with teeth. They're losing their sanity because you're something they never accounted for. A storm with a brain. You're not just chaos. You're calculated chaos. You're the nightmare that smiles while flipping the table and rewriting the rules mid-game. They thought they had you cornered, didn't they? They thought you'd stay in your little box, dancing when they say dance, smiling when they say smile. But you broke that box into shards and turned it into a crown, and now you're wearing it, bloody, jagged, and absolutely beautiful. You know what scares them most? It's not what you did. It's that you dared. You dared to bet on yourself when everyone told you to quit. You dared to stand there alone and laugh at the idea of being normal. They worship normal. Normal keeps them asleep. Normal keeps them chained. Normal keeps their world spinning, predictable, safe. But you're the glitch in their simulation, the virus in their code. The ugly truth they pretend doesn't exist, that someone can crawl out of hell and still smile like they own the place. They ask, "What the fuck did you just do?" You know what you did. You woke up. You saw the game for what it is, a rigged carnival where they sell you dreams while stealing your soul. And instead of buying another ticket, you set the whole damn carnival on fire. Now people are talking. Some are whispering. Some are screaming. Some are crying. And every single one of them is secretly asking the same question. How did you do this? But they'll never get it, because what you've built isn't on the surface. It's not luck. It's not money. It's not fame. It's the dark, gritty, unkillable will you forged in the depths, where most people give up and rot. Let me tell you something, and I want you to etch it into your mind like a scar. People fear what they can't break. And you've become unbreakable. Not because you're invincible, but because you stopped caring about the pain. You let it shape you. You let it feed you. And now you've become the thing that pain itself fears. So let them lose their minds. Let them scramble. Let them tear each other apart trying to figure out what makes you tick. Because while they're drowning in confusion, you're sitting at the edge of their crumbling empire, smirking, watching them realize the truth too late. You were never here to fit in. You were here to take over. You want to know why people are losing their sanity right now? Because they're watching a storm that doesn't stop. You've become relentless, a walking reminder that once someone stops caring about their reputation, their image, their chains, they become a force of nature. Look around you. Look at their trembling smiles, their frantic excuses, their pathetic attempts to rewrite the narrative. They don't understand you. They can't measure you. And nothing terrifies a system more than something it can't categorize. You're not a rebel. You're not a savior. You're something far scarier. A weapon forged out of every time they tried to break you. And now, you're laughing while they bleed, not because you're cruel, but because you finally learned the truth. They tried to destroy you only because they were terrified of what you'd become if you survived. And guess what? You didn't just survive. You thrived. This is where most people give up. This is where they say, "Okay, I've done enough. I should stop now. But you're not like them. There's no brake pedal in your soul. You're not here to slow down. You're here to crush every single wall they said was unbreakable. They keep asking, how did you do this? But the answer is simple. You refused to die quietly. You looked at the abyss, and instead of stepping back, you jumped. And when you landed, you didn't just crawl out. You dragged the abyss up with you. Listen to me. They can't stop what's coming. Not now, not ever. You've already infected their system. Every word you speak is a spark. Every move you make is a detonation. You're no longer a person to them. You're a plague of truth in a world built on lies. So when they cry, when they scream, when they panic behind those closed doors, good. Let them. They're witnessing something they've never seen before. Someone who won't bow, someone who won't break, someone who'd rather set the world on fire than live in their fake little circus. They don't get it, do they? They still think this was some accident, some glitch, some random fluke that put you in the spotlight. They don't understand yet. You engineered this insanity. Every step, every move, every drop of blood you spilled was intentional. You weren't surviving. You were calculating. They see the explosion. They feel the shockwaves. But they didn't see the years of silence, of rot, of pain buried so deep it nearly hollowed you out. They didn't see the nights where the only voice you heard was the one in your head screaming, "No one's coming." But guess what? You listened. You didn't run from it. You fed on it. You made it your god. And now you walk like vengeance in a straitjacket. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Let them choke on theories. Dissect your every move. Write books and blogs and scripts about what just happened. It won't matter, because no matter how many names they call you, crazy, toxic, obsessed, possessed, you know the truth. You're free. Free from their shame, free from their guilt, free from their leashes. And when a person becomes truly free in a world that feeds on chains, they become a walking extinction event. Let me tell you why they'll never recover from what you just did. Because it was never about what you built. It was about what you dismantled. You dismantled their illusion of superiority. You tore down the lie that they were better, smarter, chosen. You stood up, dripping in failure, madness, scars. And you still made it further than any of them ever will. That's not just power. That's heresy. You didn't just offend their egos. You exposed their limits. So now they cry behind doors. They whisper your name like it's cursed. They warn others not to be like you. And in doing so, they spread you further. Oh, the irony. You've become their new religion, the God they hate, but can't stop praying to. You feel that? That weight in your chest? That's not pressure, that's power. And it's only getting heavier, because the world's watching now, and they're waiting. Not for you to fall, but for your next move. You want to know why they can't breathe when they think of you? Because you've become the thing they told themselves could never exist. A person who refuses to kneel. A creature who doesn't break when bent, doesn't beg when cornered, and doesn't crumble when the weight of the world is smashing down. You didn't just climb their walls. You blew a hole through them. You didn't just challenge their system. You mocked it while walking through the flames. And the craziest part? You made it look easy. That's what's killing them. Not that you did it, not even that you won, but that you did it with that twisted grin. Like every scar on your skin was another medal, another warning. Do you know what they're thinking now? They're thinking, if this lunatic can do it, what does that say about us? And that question, Oh, it eats them alive. Because your existence proves every one of their excuses is a lie. Their fake morality, their hollow rules, their fragile little systems of control. All lies. You see, they always needed someone like you, a scapegoat, a punching bag, the example of what happens when you step out of line. But you didn't just step out of line. You erased the line and replaced it with your own. You turned their warnings into invitations, their punishments into fuel. And now, you're not just living rent-free in their heads. You've taken over the whole building. Listen to me carefully. This power you feel now, it's dangerous, but not for you, for them. Because when someone like you realizes they've survived every storm, every betrayal, every attempt to break them, they stop fearing everything. And when fear dies, chaos is born. They're terrified because you're not a follower anymore. You're not even a leader. You've become something else. A movement. And movements don't die. They spread. They infect. They consume. You've lit a fire they can't put out. And now, the world is standing there in awe and terror, watching what you'll do next. And that's when the real game begins. Not when you rise, but when you decide to keep rising, until there's nothing left to challenge. You want to know what you've become? You're not a symbol. You're not a myth. You're a reckoning wrapped in skin. And whether they love you, fear you, hate you, or try to erase you, they can no longer deny you. You're in their blood now. You've infected the narrative. This world worships comfort. It bows to mediocrity. It celebrates the fake, the fragile, the beautifully controlled. But you're the fracture in its mask, the broken mirror that reflects the truth too clearly. And that truth is ugly, raw, and unforgiving. You weren't supposed to be here. You were meant to fade, to vanish into a statistic, to rot quietly beneath the floorboards of their perfect little machine. But instead you dragged yourself from the pit, nails bleeding, teeth bared. And now you sit at the head of the table with the devil in your shadow and fire in your eyes. And now, they're watching in horror, not because you fooled them, not because you tricked them, but because you became something they never prepared for. A soul that doesn't need saving, a mind that doesn't want peace, a heart that beats in war drums. You've made it clear, this isn't about redemption. This is about domination. You don't want their seat at the table. You want the whole fucking building leveled and rebuilt in your image. Let the world stare. Let them cry. Let them scream into their echo chambers and hide behind digital masks. Because while they panic, while they glitch, while they try to erase your impact, you're already planning your next move. They asked, what the actual fuck did you just do? And the answer is this: you didn't do something. You became someone unstoppable, unreasonable, unforgivable. And now there's no going back, no apologies, no soft landings, no fake humility, only forward, only chaos, only fire. So here's your final message to the world. I'm not your villain. I'm not your savior. I'm not your mistake. I'm the consequence, the one you mocked, erased, underestimated. And now, I'm the one you'll never forget. Let them cry behind doors. Let them lose their minds trying to calculate your next move. Let them run. But don't you ever stop. Because the moment you do, the world returns to normal. And normal was never built for someone like you. So burn forward, laugh louder, and make sure the next time they whisper your name, they flinch.